I've been in this league. I've been in the locker rooms, the training rooms, the closed-door meetings they think no one ever hears about. And I can tell you, what we are witnessing with Caitlin Clark in Indiana, this is the ugliest side of the business. It's the sound of the deepest, most sacred trust in professional sports being shattered into a million pieces. The trust between a star player and the organization that is sworn to protect her. Caitlin Clark didn't want this fight, but the Indiana Fever, in what appears to be a calculated mix of greed and incompetence, left her with no other choice. They betrayed her, they pushed her, and now she's pushing back. What I'm about to show you is the story they don't want you to see. It's not just about an injury, it's about a systematic betrayal that forced a generational talent orchestrate her own rebellion just to save her own career. And I've seen it happen before. Before we can understand the depth of this betrayal, you have to remember who Caitlin Clark was when she came into this league. She was an iron woman. She was unbreakable. In her entire record-shattering college career at Iowa, she never missed a single game due to injury. Think about that. The physicality, the pressure, the minutes played, and she never broke. She was the surest thing in sports. So why, just a few months into her professional career, did her body start to fail her? Was it bad luck, or was it something more sinister? Let's look at the timeline, because this is where the betrayal begins to take shape. It started on May 25, 2025, with a left groin strain. Then came a left quadriceps injury that forced her to miss multiple games. Then, a re-aggravation around the 4th of July. And finally, on July 15th, the season-ending blow, a right groin injury. For a player who was bulletproof, this cascade of injuries isn't just a red flag, it's a 5-alarm fire of medical mismanagement. As a player, your body is your business, and the people you trust most with that business are your team's doctors and trainers. You believe them when they say you're ready. You trust their rehab protocols. But what happens when you start to suspect they don't have your best interests at heart? What happens when you suspect their timeline isn't your body's timeline, but the team's ticket-selling timeline? Sources suggest the pressure to generate revenue and fill seats may have led to Clark being rushed back from injuries prematurely. There was a lot of pressure to put people in seats to put eyeballs on the game. And in that environment, you come back a little early. Every game she missed was a financial loss for the franchise that had just set attendance records because of her. In that calculus, her long-term health can become a secondary concern. The evidence is right there if you look. ESPN reporter Holly Rowe revealed that, before Clark's return from her quad injury, she had no practice time and only one full-speed practice session before being cleared to play. Let me translate that for you from someone who has lived it. That is organizational malpractice. Throwing a player back into the fire with no real-time full-speed prep is not a medical decision. It's a business decision. It is the organization telling their superstar, their franchise player, that the money she generates tonight is more important than the career she could have for the next decade. That was the first betrayal, and it was a deep one. But the betrayal wasn't just physical, it was philosophical. While the medical staff was failing to protect her body, the coaching staff was failing to understand her genius. Multiple sources confirmed that the new head coach, Stephanie White, wanted Clark to play more off-ball to fit into her system. This is the same Caitlin Clark who, under a different coach, broke every WNBA record as the primary initiator. The player who sold out arenas and got the team to the playoffs by having the ball in her hands. Fan frustration has been palpable, with many noting that White opted to take the ball away from her and slowing down the game, which directly contradicts her natural style. This is a special kind of arrogance. It's like telling a master artist to paint by numbers. You don't ask a generational talent to change what makes them generational. You build the entire universe around them. By taking the ball out of her hands, the Fever weren't just changing a strategy, they were communicating a stunning lack of faith in the very person who had changed their franchise. That was the second betrayal. They were telling her, "We don't trust your body, and we don't trust your brain." How do we know how this affected her? She told us herself. During the All-Star weekend, in a moment of shocking vulnerability, she made a telling statement to Glamour magazine. "This is the first time I haven't felt like a young body that can run around and sprint every day and just continue to do that." Being a professional athlete, you really have to take care of both your body and your mind. It's been a journey. This is not the voice of an iron woman anymore. This is the voice of a 23-year-old superstar, realizing that the two things she always counted on, her body and her organization, were both betraying her at the same time. When a player says something like this in public, it's a cry for help. It's what happens when you've been screaming behind closed doors and nobody is listening. And that's when she decided to stop asking for help and start taking power. This is the climax of the story. This is the moment the betrayal became so total, so absolute, that Caitlin Clark had no choice but to rebel. She severed communication. She went completely rogue. She took the unprecedented step of hiring her own private medical team in New York. And more importantly, she refused to share any of their findings with the Fever's training staff. Head coach Stephanie White had to admit to the media that she had no updates about the medical evaluations, highlighting a complete breakdown in communication. The message she delivered to team officials was brutally clear, with sources reporting she essentially told them, "I'm getting my own doctors. I am not using our doctors." This is the Kawhi Leonard playbook, page for page. It's what a superstar does when they believe the organization is not just incompetent, but is actively harming their career. It's an act of professional defiance, so profound it's almost unheard of in women's basketball. She was telling the Fever, "You have failed me. I no longer trust you with my career. I am taking control." But the rebellion didn't stop there. If you've lost faith in your team's ability to keep you healthy, and you've lost faith in their ability to use you correctly, what's the next logical step? You start looking for a new team. On July 16, 2025, after a loss to the New York Liberty, viral photos captured what happened in the tunnels of the Barclays Center. It was Caitlin Clark, Liberty coach Sandy Brondello, stars Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, and the most important person in the photo, Clark's agent Aaron Kane. As a former player, let me be crystal clear. That is not a friendly post-game chat. The presence of an agent transforms a casual conversation into something more. Analysts characterized it as unequivocally a business meeting about your future. While the Fever were fumbling their generational talent, the Liberty, a competent championship-caliber organization, were in a position to make their pitch. This wasn't just Clark exploring options. This was her sending a message back to Indiana: "You betrayed me, and my potential replacement is already courting me." It all leads to the inevitable heartbreaking conclusion. On September 4, 2025, Clark officially announced her season was over, and in her statement, she used words that should haunt every single person in the Indiana Fever front office. She posted, "Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling." That's the voice of betrayal. That's the sound of trust that has been permanently broken. You have a player who single-handedly transformed your franchise, who set attendance records, who made you the center of the basketball world, and you repaid her by rushing her back from injuries, by misusing her talents, and by prioritizing short-term revenue over her long-term health. The relationship is shattered. We know she's under contract through 2027, with Indiana holding a team option for that year. But in the world of sports, contracts are just pieces of paper when the trust is gone. I've seen it a dozen times. Once it's broken, it never ever comes back. So now the clock is ticking. Every day that passes, every report of her working with her own doctors in secret, is another step towards her inevitable exit. The question is no longer if Indiana can fix this. The question is whether she forces a trade, or simply waits until she becomes an unrestricted free agent after the 2027 season to leave for a team like the Liberty, a team that won't betray her. The Fever thought they drafted a franchise player. What they created was a revolutionary who was forced to fight for her own future. The betrayal is complete, and her war to escape it is just beginning.